All right, today, guys, we're going to continue with this lesson 2.3 on two-dimensional figures. Yesterday, you worked on finding perimeters and areas for rectangles and triangles and squares and different variations of those types of questions. Today, we're going to focus on just circles. Um, Now, with circles, you find circumference and area. All right, and let's talk about those definitions right now. The circumference of a circle is going to be the linear distance of the circle's edges. In other words, it's the distance around the circle. So if you were to stand on the circle and walk around the circle and get back to where you started, that would be the circumference. It's the same idea as the perimeter of a polygon, but with the circle, it's called circumference. Now, we still find area of a circle, and that's the space occupied by this two-dimensional shape. And again, area technically is the number of square units that it takes to cover this surface. Okay. So area doesn't change, but now we call it circumference. All right. So here's a basic circle. Now they can give us one of two things. They can give us the diameter of the circle. All right. And the diameter is a chord, which means it has its endpoints on the circle that passes through the center of the circle. Okay. So the distance, it cuts the circle in half. The distance all the way across the circle is called the diameter, and it's got to pass through the center. A radius is the distance from the center to any point on the circle. All right. And what we know is that a diameter is made up of two radii. So a diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. And therefore, a radius is equal to half the diameter. Okay. So we will have to use that as we move along. Now, to find the circumference of a circle, the distance around a circle, you have two different possible formulas. You can say one of them is circumference equals 2 pi r, or we can say circumference equals pi d. Okay, now remember, 2 times a radius is the same as a diameter. So this is just really the same formula, just a little variation thereof. And we picked the one that we were given. So if or the information given. So if we're given radius of a circle, we typically use this one to find circumference. If they give us the diameter of the circle, we typically just use this one and go from there. Okay. Area of a circle is found by doing pi r squared. Okay. Pi times the radius squared. Now the radius squared, right, is not the same as the diameter. 2 times radius and radius times radius are not the same thing. So make sure we don't think along those lines. Okay. Now you can get estimated answers with these, and that's when you replace pi with 3.14. Pi is a non-repeating, non-terminating decimal number. It's what we call irrational. It goes on and on and on forever. So if we're going to put 3.14 in place of it, we are cutting off part of the number. Therefore, this is not an exact answer anymore. It's an estimated answer. Okay. If they want exact answers, which I don't think we have any of this tonight, if they want exact answers, then we'll actually just leave pi in there. All right. We'll just, whatever our number is, we calculate in either formula, we'll just write that number times pi in our solution. And you'll see this when we come to it. Okay. First example, we got a circle down here. It's got a diameter of 10. We want to find the circumference. Now, directions say use 3.14 for pi, but don't round your answer and be sure to include the correct units. Okay. So since they give us diameter and we're trying to find circumference, I would use C equals pi d. Okay. Now substitute in place of pi, we're going to put 3.14 per the directions here. In place of diameter, we're going to put 10. So all I got to do is multiply those two together, and I have my solution, 31.4 centimeters. So diameter is a linear distance. It's a straight line distance. So we just label it with that unit, 31.4 centimeters. Okay, little variation of this question. They're asking us for they're telling us the circumference of this circular field is 301.44 yards. What's the diameter of the field? So they're flipping it. They're giving you circumference and asking you to find diameter. Okay. Again, use 3.14 for pi and don't round your answer. So since they're asking us for diameter and they give us circumference, then I'm going to use the formula that uses circumference and diameter, which is C equals pi d. Again, I'm going to substitute in what we know. We know circumference in this case is 301.44, and we know we're supposed to use 3.14 for pi. We're trying to find diameter, so I just want to solve this for d. All right, so we'll divide each side by 3.14. That will cancel out the 3.14 that's being multiplied by D and leave me with just D. And I get D equals 96. So that means the diameter of this circular field is 96 yards. Again, it's a linear distance. Straight across the field, cutting that field in half is 96 yards. Okay, so a little variation of those two questions. This asks us to find the area of this circle that has a diameter of 18. So the distance across the circle, notice it's going through the center, which they've marked with an X. The distance across is 18. Use 3.14 for pi, and don't round your answer. Be sure to include correct units. All right, so now we're finding area of a circle. There's only one formula for area of a circle. Area equals pi r squared. Okay, so there's no choice here. You cannot use diameter. You have to use radius. So we know diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. 18 is equal to 2 times the radius. So our radius has got to be 9, right? 9, 9, 18. So our radius is 9. That's what we have to use. Area equals pi is 3.14 times 9 squared. 3.14 times 81. 254.34 centimeters squared. You're finding an area, so you're finding units squared. You know, what we're really doing is taking a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter square and seeing how many we can fit in here. 254.34 centimeters squared. Got to have right units. This one says find the circumference and area of the circle. This one has a radius of 7. Use 3.14 for pi. Don't round your answers. Use correct units. So since they give us radius here, when I find circumference, I'll use 2 pi r. 2 times 3.14 times 7. 43.96 straight units here, meters. So the circumference, the distance around. So if I was to start at this point and walk around the circle, all the way around to where I started, you would have walked 43.96 meters. Okay, area is pi r squared, always pi r squared. They tell us the radius is 7, so we're ready to roll. 3.14 times 7 squared, 3.14 times 49, 153.86 meters squared. Area is always units squared. Okay, that's all there is to that. Okay, this tells us that in the figure below, this is a circular park that has a radius of 18. Okay, so this is all the enclosed space here is the park. It's got a radius of 18. Part A says find the area and circumference of this park. Use 3.14 in our calculations. Don't round. Be sure to include correct units. Okay, so we'll find area first. Pi r squared. They tell us the radius is 18, so we're going to plug it in. 3.14 times 18 squared. 3.14 times 324. So this park has an area of 1,017.36 square yards, or yards squared. Okay. They ask us also to find circumference. So since they gave us radius, I chose the circumference formula that has radius in it. So 2 pi r, 2 times 3.14 times 18, 113.04 yards. Again, circumference is a straight linear distance. We don't square our units. It's just straight units. Okay, so we got area, we got circumference. Question B, a rope is going to be placed around the park. Which measure would be useful in finding the amount of rope needed? So if we're going to put a rope around the park, then we're going to take a rope and we're going to go around the park. All right, that is definitely circumference. So we'd be using this 113.4 yards as a guide to how much rope we need to get around this park. Okay, part B, we're going to cover this park with artificial turf. Which measure would be useful in finding the amount of turf needed? So we're going to cover all of this interior here with artificial turf. That's area, guys. So we're filling this whole space in. That's area. So we're definitely going to want to use the 1,017.36 square yards. That's how much turf we're going to need. Okay, so just a little kind of follow-up questions to these. All right, that's the end of the circles part of this lesson. So you're going to have homework in this on Alex. Be sure that you're writing out your work, guys. Just write it down. Write whatever you're doing. Just write it down so I can see it. That's your evidence for your work. But you know, that's what we got to work on tonight, and I'll let you get at it.